What to include in your content briefs to make them SEO friendly with Rejoice Ojiaku. The In Search SEO podcast is brought to you by Similarweb, helping you build better SEO strategies with digital intelligence, insights, and data. Hey, it's David. How well do you brief your content production team for SEO requirements? How can you improve your content brief so you're not constantly tweaking things before you're ready to publish? That's what we're discussing today with a lady who's an award-winning diversity and inclusion advocate, a global speaker, and co-founder of Be Digital UK. She's also SEO manager at Nelson Bostock Unlimited. A warm welcome to the In Search SEO podcast, Rejoice Ojiaku.
Hi, nice to meet you. Nice to be here.
Hey Rejoice, yeah, good to have you on here, where you can find Rejoice over at nelsonbostock.com. So Rejoice, let's just get started by asking you the question, what is a content brief?
Of course. So essentially a content brief is a document that sort of looks and helps you understand, especially from a writer's perspective, what you want from your content and how you sort of want that to be done. So that's like the short definition of a content brief.
Got you. Okay. And because I was thinking, we're discussing how to do content briefs, but I guess there are many people that don't even use content briefs.
I mean, I would say if you are working with the content team, especially if you also have SEO teams within your organization, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't get the SEO team to feed into the content, because that can, provide search demand. And if we're writing blog content, having a content brief for writers honestly saves you so much time. There's so much benefits to having that document in place or template in place that can be, accessed within your organization. And that's part of the process. I find it just stops a lot of back and forth. I find it allows SEO to be fed into that content writing process. And it just makes the understanding of SEO a lot easier, especially the education around SEO a lot better, and you can communicate that a lot better through your content brief.
And is a content brief per project enough, or do you actually need a content brief for every single individual piece of content?
I would say, so it depends on how you're writing your content. So if you've created the content, overarching content, and you're going to have sub-contents or sub-topics underneath that, then maybe you can have an overarching brief, and then those sub-ones can feed into from that existing content briefs. But any new topic you're going to write about or you're going to upload on your website, I would say a content brief is needed per new topic, because again, that content brief will include things as keyword research, any internal link opportunities that the writers can think about, including any additional secondary keywords that they might use, how that heading structure might be, image assets that we might need to include. It needs to be unique per content, because all of those informations will be unique as you're writing new content across the board.
And how do you structure the content brief? I mean, do you structure it based upon who you're dealing with? For instance, do you prefer to deal with a management team? Do you prefer to outsource the content requirements that you have to some specialist agency? Do you have freelancers? Do you have in-house people? And how does that vary the way that content briefs are actually produced?
So I think it's easier to have a bog standard content template that has all the information that will be applicable to the writers and to the managers. I think essentially I prefer to deal with directly the writers, because they're the one who's actually putting words to paper. They're the ones who actually have to do the writing. So usually the process should look like, the SEO person feeds into that content brief, feed it into maybe the content manager, and they get the approval. Maybe there are informations that, the SEO team is improved for. Once the content manager is happy with it, then they feed it to the writer. If that's the process within your organization, then that's how it should be. The content brief should be consistent across the board. So when it reaches the final destination of the writer, they have every single information that's needed within that content brief to write that piece of content. If you are an SEO person and you're dealing with freelancers, then it's essentially the same way. All you're doing is cutting out the content manager. So you want to make sure that brief again includes the keywords, even down to the best practices for metadata, if I am sending it to the writer. because a lot of times content teams are not privy to SEO best practices. So I just think it's just easier to have a one template document that have all information that people could just fill in, and that document remains the same across the board, and it allows for better collaboration to be added and additionally. So that's essentially how I would deal with two different people.
And when you say that you prefer to deal with the writer directly, do you prefer to deal with them face to face, or can it be just as effective to deal with them on a remote basis?
It can be just as effective on remote basis. I don't think there's anything within the content briefs that you need to be in person for. It's simply because you can just share that document over a Teams meeting and just go through each section with them remotely. They can sort of ask you questions. So it can be done remotely. If you have a remote team, those are really, really great as well. If you have content writers that are, hired internally and they are in the office and you're in the office, you can do it face to face as well. So it doesn't actually change depending on whether you're in person or face to face.
Now, you shared a couple of key elements to include in a content brief with me beforehand, including meta, title, and descriptions. So what's best practice for that?
Yeah, so there's two ways sometimes that I do it. Sometimes I may write the metadata, but most times I probably wouldn't. But what I would do is I would give the formatting of the metadata, how we should look, what brand's name we should add at the end of the metadata for the meta title. I would let them know, give them key pointers in terms of the meta description should have a CTA, the metadata should have the primary keyword, at least within the meta title and the description, and secondary keywords can go along. I would let them know the character lengths for metadata, 50 to 60 character length for meta description. I would give that number as well. So they'll have all of that information. All they just have to do is write. So as an SEO expert, just add in as much information, best practice that you can provide, because you have to remember you are still educating the writers how to look at it from an SEO perspective. What are the key elements that usually writers don't think about when they are writing blog content? So if I add in elements like the metadata, the H1s, how that can be sort of split into, and I find it kind of exciting because it opens up the conversation, because they sometimes may ask, oh, what's the point of this? And we can have that conversation about SEO, that educational conversation about SEO. So it kind of works. Yeah, it's like a win-win situation.
Brilliant. You said 50 to 60 characters for the title. Any optimum number of characters for the description?
So my go-to is 150 to 165 characters for the meta description. That's just my go-to.
Okay, brilliant. And are you ever tempted to use ChatGPT for this, for the creation of these templates that you're essentially setting up for the writers, or is this something that's done manually by yourself?
So the content briefs I use now, that was done manually before the whole emergence of AI.
Okay.
But I do think you can use AI. You can absolutely use AI to maybe structure the best content brief. So I would maybe go in with the prompt saying, letting AI know that they're an SEO expert working with a content team and they want to build out a content brief template. In that template, you want to have the information about metadata, have the information about H1. Just give AI all the information from an SEO standpoint, what needs to be in the content brief, and ask AI, just produce a skeleton content brief template, and AI can do that for you. And you can take that and tweak it, take it to the content team, ask the content team, what information does the writers need in that brief alongside SEO? Then you can add additional stuff. But if you're stuck on knowing the best template, start with AI, give it all the information and see what the output is. So you can absolutely use AI to help you structure the template.
You also touched upon primary and secondary keywords. So how do you go about researching that and determining the optimum keywords to select?
Yeah, so initially for any SEO experts, you would have sort of, if you do SEO within the content team, so because I'm mostly focused on the content side of things, not technical. So I would have probably done a keyword research, in-depth keyword research if I'm looking after a client's accounts, for example, and that client is within the beauty space. I would have done a keyword research bank and sort of split it out into keywords based on products, keywords based on additional things, skin types, makeup types, whatever the case may be. And I pull those keywords from the keyword research. I will start adding those into the template. So as an SEO expert, you should have that keyword research done anyways.
And Any particular keyword research tool that you favor? And are you looking at keyword volume as well?
Yes, keyword volumes as well. So keyword research tools I think I do like would be, I think Google Keyword Planner gives me historical data. So I know what months are peaks, what months are not. So because sometimes you might have seasonal content you have to think about that, if not, I look at, different things such as Hrefs, I'll look at SEMrush, but I do find Keyword Everywhere as a Chrome extension is great because whenever I sort of, want to see what content comes up, take a keyword, put it into Google, Keyword Everywhere kind of gives me additional keywords I may not have thought of. So I think that's a very, very good way to look at it. So that would be the tools I would use. I would always advocate for manually actually going in and type in random keywords. And because put yourself as a consumer, what would you search for this particular brand or particular product? And that way you'll be surprised how many keywords you can think of if you consider yourself as a consumer.
Brilliant. Okay. Keywordseverywhere.com. I haven't heard of that particular service, I don't think. So is that something that you've used for a while?
Yeah. So I always have it on as a Chrome extension. I just think it's really, really good to kind of show you different keywords. I think it works really well if you do a lot of maybe like Amazon searches as well. It might go on YouTube. It just gives you additional searches that others people might be doing. And it's just a great way to kind of look at what other keywords are similar or like this term that I have just searched. And it literally just shows up at the side. It's really, really great. I think it has some APIs that you can link to your other worksheets. So I think it's a great Chrome extension to sort of look at.
And is word count important now, or is that not so relevant as it used to be?
So I think word counts are still very important. They, it's part of whenever I talk about content briefs, what I would add into it would be word counts as well, especially if you are structuring it based on per paragraph. So if you have structured it that this is the H1, this is the H2, these are the texts that we sort of need underneath it. It would be really, really helpful for the writer to maybe give them a ballpark of what word count per paragraph they should work with, or maybe word count overall they should work with. This just gives them a really, really great guidance. And usually if the writer feels that they need more words in order to make sure, we are giving quality content, then we can see where we can expand, where we can decrease. But having that word count there, it's really, really good. And yes, I would say other things such as even if you want them to add a CTA, maybe give them descriptions of the different types of CTAs might be useful. If they want to, I would include search intent.
Well, what's an example of a CTA that you like to encourage writers to use?
Yeah, so think about it on the actions I want the users to take if we're writing for people to download something or sign up. So, you can use sign up to our newsletter, download, our report, or browse our product, or, look for more related products. Basically, whatever action you want them to take at the end of reading that, add that CTA in. If it's a contact us, you add that CTA in as well. So I will go at it in the sense of, okay, what do I want my users to do right after this? And then let's see how we can turn that into a call to action.
Yeah, it's a great point. And also with more people, if you want to call them that, scraping your content nowadays, you have to try to incorporate different elements of brand messaging as well as calls to action within your content. So if it is used elsewhere, then hopefully you can incorporate some of that in those other places.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that.
And I guess the one other thing to think about is what the user is thinking, or what you would like the user to be thinking at that particular stage in the buyer journey as they're reading your content. So do you also incorporate search intent ideas as part of your proposition to the content writers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a column to speak about the intent, and I have a column to speak about the journey, the audience journey, wherever the case may be. So the intent can be, this is an informational content, so we know that's the direction we're going in, and the audience are currently in the awareness stage, so we know where the audience are, what type of information, because the audience can be within the consideration stage. So we need intent-based keywords or intense type content around navigation, whatever we need them to sort of feel when they're reading the content. So having that intent there, having that audience there gives the writers a bit more clarity as to, okay, I know the messaging and I know what I'm trying to get people to feel and do and think, because this is the purpose of why I'm writing it. And this is where the users are. Because from SEO or search or marketing, we always say, meet our customers and users where they are. And that comes even with the messaging, or that it comes even with the content we're giving them. Where are your customers? What type of content do they want? Do they want more transactional based content? Do they want more informational based content? And are we providing that? And that's how you can form your content brief to feed that information to the writers so they know that this is the purpose of what you're writing.
Let's finish off with
the Pareto pickle.
So Pareto says that you can get 80% of your results from 20% of your efforts. What's one SEO activity you would recommend that provides incredible results for modest levels of effort?
I would say one thing that I think people don't think will provide great, incredible results is refresh and update your content. I think people think that content is once it's out there, done. I don't need to touch it anymore. But sometimes you do. Go back and refresh it, update it, because that topic may have slightly moved into a slightly different angle, and you want to be giving your users fresh content, updated content. You know, I don't want to read informational content about a topic that is 5 years outdated. I want, what are people saying, or what is the conversation around this topic now? So refresh and update your content is such a powerful thing to do, because it allows you to provide more comprehensive answers. And I think just by slightly doing that, you just start to see that you have this refreshed and evergreen content consistently and always on content. And that is favorable for SEO, because it means that you're providing your users that updated quality content each and every single time.
How do you determine the best time to refresh and update your content?
I would say look at, so 2 ways you can do it. Look at the keywords. Has the intent changed for that keyword? Has that completely sort of moved? Think about the topic that you're doing. Is it based on societal changes, economic changes? Is it based on certain external factors that will impact the trajectory of that topic? And also look at how long you've written that topic. If when you uploaded it, if that topic is 2 to 3 years old, let's see if there's something we can either change slightly, change a paragraph, update it in a way, or maybe repurpose that content. If, for example, the content is 1 year old, maybe think about, I might not have to change it on the website, but can I take this content and repurpose it differently to maybe do more like a social media stuff, but linking it back to the web? Those are the sort of updates and refresh you want to think about, and look at how you're writing the content, the dates, has that topic evolved, and also has the intent of that keyword you're targeting, has that changed, has it decreased in search volume? Is it a peak month that's coming up that we can actually now relaunch the same topic? Think about it in that way.
I've been your host, David Bain. You can find Rejoice Ojiaku over at nelsonbostock.com. Rejoice, thanks so much for being on the In Search SEO podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for listening. Check out all the previous episodes and sign up for a free trial of the Similarweb platform over at Similarweb.com.